The movie starts with a young boy named Chung-gil, accompanying a girl to school on his bicycle. Chung is handsome, and he is aware of this. He takes advantage of his looks and is fond of dating many girls. On his way to school, he notices two groups of girls fighting with each other and stops. Chung-gil also notices Young-suk, the gang leader, who has a crush on Chung. Young-suk walks up to another group of girls from a different school, looking like they're about to fight. The leaders of both groups step forward to face each other. Young-suk and the other group's leader come face to face, but get distracted by a couple riding a bicycle nearby. Annoyed, Young-suk makes a rude comment about the boy on the bike, which angers the other leader. She punches Young-suk in the face. Young-suk, being tough, fights back and knocks her out. This leads to a big fight between the two groups. Chung-gil and his classmates are on a train returning from a field trip. On the way, he sees his friend get slapped for being called a pervert. Feeling sorry for him, Chung-gil gives some advice. To stop a girl from slapping you, place the back of your hand on her face, and then turn it so your palm touches her hand. Chung-gil says this simple but intense touch will make her fall for you. Chung-gil's friends quickly believe his method of winning a girl's heart and plan to try it out. Chung-gil then makes a bet with his two friends. He grabs an eggplant, and they play rock, paper, scissors. The loser has to fulfill the bet. The scene ends with them playing the game. The friend who got slapped for being a pervert loses the game. Because he lost, he had to walk till the end of the train with a cucumber in his pants. This catches the attention of all the students on the train. The guys find it funny, but the girls, not so much. After the three friends reach the end of the train, the one who lost shows everyone a cucumber hidden in his pants. He waves it around but accidentally throws it at a nearby teacher. The teacher gets scared and starts yelling, which makes another teacher come over to see what's happening. In the chaos, Chung-gil gets pushed and falls on the yelling teacher. The male teacher gets angry seeing this and punishes the three friends. As all the students get off the train, they walk past the three friends, including the female teacher Chung-gil fell on, and Young-suk with her friend. Chung-gil and his classmates listen to their teacher complain about a girl who keeps running on the school track. He then talks about a student who got in trouble and warns everyone to behave. The teacher's lesson for the day is about sex education, which grabs the class's attention, primarily male students. Young-suk and her classmates are in a sex ed class, but Young-suk falls asleep, not paying attention. In the next scene, Chung-gil is his usual charming self, helping a female student with her task of pouring water from a teapot. After finishing, he invites her to dinner at a specific hotel and time. As soon as Chung-gil leaves, the female student is approached by two of her classmates to ask what Chung-gil is saying to her, but she avoids the topic. They then warn her of Chung-gil's tactics and how he tries to manipulate girls and take advantage of them. Later that night, the female student meets Chung-gil at the hotel he invited her to. She quickly tells him that she's not an easy girl. The girl responds by reminiscing about their school days together, recalling small details about her. This starts to break down her defenses and she blushes, becomes shy, and even gets a headache from the emotions. Their date ends as they leave the hotel room, but Chung-gil's mood quickly changes when he sees his enemy, Gwang-sik. Gwang-sik beats him up, but the beating stops when Gwang-sik hears that his crush, Young-suk, wants to see him. When Gwang-sik returns to the hotel room where Young-suk is, he sits across from her. She asks why he keeps bothering Chung-gil. Gwang-sik confesses that Chung-gil caused his sister to run away from home and disappear after breaking up with her, which explains his hatred for Chung-gil. Meanwhile, Chung-gil meets up with the same girl from earlier outside. He lies, saying that Gwang-sik was just looking after him and that nothing serious was happening. They go to watch a movie together. But throughout the film, Chung-gil flirts with her. He places his hand on her thigh and gently touches her face, making her feel uneasy and very nervous. After dining at the hotel with her friends, Young-suk returns home to find visitors there. She waits until they leave before entering her house. Despite the late hour, she silently cooks a small meal for a frequent customer and then heads to her bedroom. In her bedroom, Young-suk takes out a small, cherished geometry compass that she has kept all these years. She gently caresses it, reminiscing about all the memories it holds. Meanwhile, in his bedroom, Chung-gil pulls out a hidden photo of Young-suk and her classmates from his drawer. On the back of the photo are silhouettes of each girl with their names written next to them. He fills in the silhouette of the girl he went on a date with, adding her name since he got to know her. The next morning, Chung-gil's family is visited by their kind and warm neighbor, who brings them some fruits as a thank you for Chung-gil's father's help on their farm. It's clear that this neighbor has a crush on Chung-gil's father, as she blushes when he notices her new hairpin. Chung-gil is in his bedroom, dancing around without any underwear, admiring his own good looks. He hears his father talking with the mailman outside about a package, so he quickly runs out, barely managing to put on his pants to get his package. At school, he shows off the contents of the package to his two friends, which include snacks and a newspaper. The package is from his uncle in Brazil, and his friends are amazed and fascinated by the items. Suddenly, a male student bursts in, excitedly announcing the arrival of a new transfer student from Seoul, claiming she is more beautiful than the two most beautiful girls at their school. Hearing this, all the students rush out of the classroom to see her, except for Chung-gil, who stays behind to read the postcard from his uncle. Unlike the other male students, Chung-gil takes his time. He walks slowly and confidently to the classroom where the transfer student is. He finds her sitting alone, eating her lunch. Chung-gil smiles when he sees her but continues walking down the hallway. Meanwhile, Young-suk, who is in the same class as the new transfer student, glares at her from behind while eating her meal. It's clear she doesn't like the new girl. In the next scene, Young-suk walks past her friends with an air of authority. This scene really highlights her power and influence. All the girls bow their heads and greet her fearfully as she walks by. Every corner she turns, she's met with respectful bows from all the girls she encounters. Talk about commanding respect. She walks into a small restaurant to meet Chung-gil, her crush, but unlike her, he doesn't seem happy to see her. He starts complaining as soon as he sees her, making it clear he doesn't want to be there. Young-suk mentions the rumor that he managed to seduce a girl to his base, which is just an empty room in a warehouse. Chung-gil looks a bit proud when he hears this, but hesitates when Young-suk asks why he hasn't tried to seduce her. To end the conversation, she stands up, leans towards Chung-gil while bending the fork in her hand, and demands they meet at his base at 8 p.m. Later that night, Young-suk dresses up nicely and checks her makeup in the mirror while waiting at Chung-gil's base. She gets excited when she hears footsteps, but feels disappointed when it's not him. It turns out Chung-gil had an emergency and sent his friend to deliver the message. Disappointed, she heads for the door but is stopped by Chung-gil's friend, who has other plans. He puts his hand on Young-suk's back and gives a creepy smile, which makes her angry. She ends up beating him up pretty badly. The next day at school, Chung-gil's friend shows up with a bruised face and an injured head, but Chung-gil is only interested in the new transfer student from Seoul. He even asks his friend for help in getting the girl. But their conversation is cut short when the teacher punishes Chung-gil in front of the class for his poor grades. After a school trip, Chung-gil and Young-suk's class are on the train back to school. Chung-gil's friends share some details they found out about the new transfer student from Seoul. When the train arrives, Gwang-sik fights Chung-gil's classmate, since they are known enemies. After the fight, Chung-gil is about to leave, but sees Young-suk behind him. He tells her he didn't meet her the night before, because he isn't interested in her, and fears Gwang-sik, who claims Young-suk is his. "This thing between us is not love. It's a threat," Chung-gil says, upsetting Young-suk, who clenches her fists. They are interrupted by a jealous and angry Gwang-sik, who sees Chung-gil talking to Young-suk. Gwang-sik punches Chung-gil in the stomach as a warning to stay away from her. Poor Chung-gil. At school, Chung-gil can't stop thinking about So-hee, who he notices is sitting alone during her physical education class. While her class is outside, he asks his friend to sneak an invitation into So-hee's desk, inviting her to the same hotel where he had been with another girl earlier. He plans to meet So-hee that night and get to know her. So-hee gets the invitation and reads it, but doesn't seem to care much. Young-suk, who sees the invitation from behind So-hee, gets angry that Chung-gil invited So-hee and not her. That evening, Young-suk shows up instead of So-hee, disappointing Chung-gil. When he says he likes So-hee because she's beautiful, implying he doesn't think Young-suk is, Young-suk leaves the hotel, furious. The next morning at school, Chung-gil and his friends watch a girl running on the school track. They guess why she keeps running and focuses on her until they see So-hee sitting alone on a bench across the field. Chung-gil takes this chance to approach her, using his usual smooth tactics. However, So-hee walks away, feeling disturbed, annoyed, and creeped out. The school goes on a field trip to a nearby campsite. So-hee joins and spends some time alone, painting passionately. Dramatic music plays, making it seem like she's creating a masterpiece, but it turns out her painting isn't very impressive. Later, the school holds a small talent show at the campsite where students can perform. The students pressure their two teachers, who seem to have a thing for each other, to sing a duet on stage. After their performance, the students chant for them to kiss, but they don't. Next up on stage is So-hee, who sings for the audience. Chung-gil tries to liven up her dull performance by adding random notes and walking back and forth behind her to show support. This irritates Young-suk, so she and her group perform a dance to a song sung by Soo-young. However, their performance doesn't get the reaction Young-suk expected. Among the unimpressed audience, Chung-gil seems the most disturbed by it. That evening, Chung-gil returns home to find his brother, who gets all the attention from their grandmother and dad. They throw a party for his brother the next day, but Chung-gil hangs out with his friends, instead of celebrating. His father gets mad at him for not joining the celebration and for talking back, leading Chung-gil to walk away. Young-suk, who has come to deliver some things, witnesses the argument between Chung-gil and his father. The next day at school, Chung-gil's friend Hwang-kyu is forced to tell Young-suk what Chung-gil likes. She buys Chung-gil a new pair of sneakers, but he pretends not to like them. When Young-suk threatens to take them back, he quickly makes up an excuse to keep them. Young-suk smirks, knowing he actually likes her gift. After school, it starts pouring rain, and the students rush home. Chung-gil sees So-hee alone and pulls out his umbrella, thinking she's walking home, but he watches as she gets into a car. Devastated, he hands his umbrella to Young-suk, who joins him a few seconds later and walks away in the rain, leaving her behind. Chung-gil's efforts to win So-hee's heart keep failing, because Young-suk always ruins his plans and takes the gifts meant for So-hee. When he sees So-hee feeding some rabbits, he secretly gets her those rabbits. She accepts them without knowing who they're from. Meanwhile, Young-suk notices Gwang-sik wearing the sneakers she bought for Chung-gil, and gets angry because she didn't buy them for Gwang-sik. The next day, Young-suk, Chung-gil, and So-hee's classes go to a farm. Suddenly, So-hee starts screaming in panic, alarming everyone, including Chung-gil, who rushes to her. It turns out she has a leech on her leg. Chung-gil throws it away and, thinking her blood is poisoned, sucks the blood from her leg in front of everyone, including the students and teachers. Everyone is shocked by Chung-gil's actions, but Young-suk is the most furious, watching everything unfold, so he goes to the town clinic for medicine and treatment. When she leaves, it's dark, and she feels cautious about walking home. She's relieved when Chung-gil approaches her with a bicycle, but she declines his offer to ride with him. He rides past her with his bicycle's flashlight on, secretly helping her find her way home safely. Since So-hee refuses to ride Chung-gil's bicycle, he stops every few moments to shine his flashlight, guiding her home. Thanks to his help, she safely reaches the bus stop and heads home. Meanwhile, Young-suk's female teacher and Chung-gil's male teacher secretly meet in her bedroom. She admires Chung-gil's boldness for sucking the blood from So-hee's foot, something she thinks others wouldn't dare to do. They discuss their secret relationship, which they have to hide from the students. However, Young-suk's teacher is tired of hiding and wishes she could openly show her love as she tries to kiss him. The next day, Chung-gil and So-hee meet at a restaurant. She gives him a harmonica as a thank you gift for helping her the night before. Chung-gil is pleased and likes the trendy gift from Seoul. He suggests several places they could visit, but So-hee doesn't like any of them. When she suggests roller skating, Chung-gil agrees and takes her to a large empty pool with a slippery floor, perfect for skating. So-hee isn't happy at first, but roller skating with Chung-gil turns out to be fun. She laughs as Chung-gil keeps falling, trying to impress her even though he can't skate well. After skating, they go to town to get something to eat. While walking, they see Young-suk working at her mom's restaurant. Young-suk sees them together, but doesn't say anything, though her sad eyes say it all. Chung-gil and So-hee eat at a hotel that serves the black bean noodles Chung-gil always orders to impress girls. After eating, Chung-gil tries to make a move by putting his hand on So-hee's thigh. She calls him a pervert and walks away, disappointed to see his true intentions. Before leaving, she also criticizes his tacky pants. "You can't impress everyone, Chung-gil." Chung-gil throws away the pants that So-hee dislikes, but his father likes them and keeps them. Chung-gil is still upset about what happened the night before and ends up crying in class, which makes his friends suspicious. So-hee ignores him at school. Meanwhile, Gwang-sik and Young-suk are at a bonfire. Gwang-sik suggests they could become closer friends, but Young-suk isn't interested. He thinks it's because of another guy and is willing to hurt him to have Young-suk to himself. In class, Young-suk confronts So-hee about the cigarettes she found in So-hee's pouch. She laughs in disbelief because So-hee smokes despite having asthma. Annoyed, So-hee invites Young-suk to talk in the girls' restroom. Young-suk's friends follow them, but she sends them away, saying she can handle So-hee alone. So-hee and Young-suk argue and start fighting in the girls' restroom. A crowd gathers, but just watches, amazed. Chung-gil steps in to break them up. He accuses Young-suk of trying to undress So-hee. He rescues So-hee, who pretends to be weak and scared, and takes her away. Later, the principal meets with So-hee's dad and Young-suk's mom to discuss the fight, but they end up arguing themselves. Frustrated, Young-suk storms out of the office to grab her things from her classroom and leaves the school. As she walks out, Chung-gil sees her from his classroom and thinks about her behavior. Young-suk escapes to her village and reminisces about her past with Chung-gil. They were childhood friends and classmates, which is how they know each other. Young-suk recalls a time when Chung-gil gave her his compass to save her from trouble at school. Although he faced consequences for not having it himself later that day, he remained strong and assured her everything was okay. Young-suk still keeps Chung-gil's compass, occasionally looking at it. With nowhere else to go, she ends up at Chung-gil's base, a warehouse. Chung-gil's two friends find her there and warn him not to come, but he ignores their advice. He visits her to lift her spirits. Despite noticing her injured and pale face, Chung-gil reassures her. Since Young-suk doesn't want to return home, especially after her fight, Chung-gil allows her to stay at his base for the night. They discuss graduation and college, then reminisce about their childhood. Chung-gil wasn't always a ladies' man. He had good grades, unlike Young-suk, who often copied his homework and had poor grades. Young-suk suggests that Chung-gil go home while she prepares to sleep. He leaves her alone but returns with medicine, concerned for her well-being. After replacing the books with a pillow for Young-suk, Chung-gil leans in to kiss her. But they are interrupted by the sound of a cracked window and a harmonica on the ground. So-hee, who threw the harmonica, walks away angrily after seeing them together. Feeling uncomfortable, Young-suk leaves the warehouse and heads home. On her way, she meets Gwang-sik, who questions her about meeting Chung-gil. She admits they met and did something together, which upsets Gwang-sik. Unfazed, Young-suk continues on her way. The next morning, Gwang-sik and his friends visit Chung-gil's school to confront him. They accuse Chung-gil of touching Young-suk, supported by another girl who claims she saw it. The school leader tries to defuse the situation, but Gwang-sik remains angry. Chung-gil is left alone, as even his friends are not there to support him. Learning of the danger from Chung-gil's friends, Young-suk rushes to his aid. She confronts Gwang-sik, allowing Chung-gil to escape with minor injuries inflicted on Gwang-sik. Later, Young-suk meets Chung-gil, but he tries to distance himself from her. When she shows him the compass, asking if he remembers it, he stops in his tracks. Young-suk reminds Chung-gil of the memories associated with the compass, and he admits he hasn't forgotten them. She apologizes for the trouble with Gwang-sik and starts to leave, but Chung-gil stops her and asks why she likes him. She explains that she realized her feelings only after she started liking him. Chung-gil confesses that he used to have feelings for her too, but he gave up because he thought his father had a connection with Young-suk's mother, which saddened her. Disappointed in Chung-gil for giving up so easily, Young-suk reflects on how she continued to fight for their relationship, while he distanced himself from her to protect her. Chung-gil remembers the day he first met his father, when he was just a child. Raised by his grandmother while his parents were away, he learned that his mother wouldn't be coming back on that same day. This filled him with anger and confusion, causing him to distance himself from Young-suk for her own good. In the present day, Chung-gil's relationship with his father remains strained and unresolved. Chung-gil waits outside So-hee's house, but she gets kidnapped by Gwang-sik's gang. Gwang-sik says it's payback because Chung-gil was with his girlfriend. Meanwhile, two teachers finish watching a movie and hide in an alley to avoid being seen by students. They start kissing but hear a girl scream nearby. They find So-hee surrounded by Gwang-sik and his friends. The teachers scare them off and take care of So-hee, then leave. Chung-gil waits until the teachers are gone to talk to So-hee. So-hee slaps Chung-gil hard, making his nose bleed. She says he has to eliminate Gwang-sik if he wants to keep dating her. That night, Chung-gil takes a small knife to find Gwang-sik. He tries to sneak up, but gets caught. Chung-gil can't stab Gwang-sik, who beats him up. Chung-gil comes home bruised, but more determined. He practices martial arts moves on a punching bag, pretending it's Gwang-sik, preparing for their next fight. Young-suk stares at a train ticket to Seoul, contemplating her journey, when Gwang-sik arrives unexpectedly. He asks her if she ever had feelings for him, even briefly. Young-suk honestly confesses that she never liked him. Disappointed, Gwang-sik leaves and meets Young-suk's former friend-turned-enemy, who betrayed her by telling Gwang-sik the truth. They join forces, and she leads them to attack Young-suk, but she remains unfazed. Meanwhile, Chung-gil goes to the pool hall where Gwang-sik and his friends hang out to challenge Gwang-sik to a fight. Surprisingly, Gwang-sik refuses and explains they don't need to fight as long as Chung-gil stays away from So-hee, whom he no longer intends to harm. However, unknown to Chung-gil, Gwang-sik has redirected his revenge towards Young-suk instead. That night, Chung-gil returns home battered again, after offending Gwang-sik by mentioning his sister. His father berates him for his constant injuries and criticizes a photo of Chung-gil's mother, still in his room, triggering Chung-gil's anger. His brother reveals that their mother left of her own volition, not because of their father, which deeply affects Chung-gil. On the train to school, Chung-gil's friends tell him about Young-suk's recent fight, in which she didn't fight back to protect him. Initially dismissive, Chung-gil starts to understand when Gwang-sik confronts him on the train and questions what Young-suk sees in him that makes her sacrifice herself. Chung-gil realizes the extent of Young-suk's sacrifice and understands why Gwang-sik spared him the previous night, as long as So-hee was safe. But not mentioning Young-suk, Gwang-sik aimed his revenge at her. Upon realizing the extent of Young-suk's sacrifice, Chung-gil confronts Gwang-sik to exact revenge for what he did to her. Their fight escalates until Gwang-sik threatens to push Chung-gil off the fast-moving train into the river below. Chung-gil dares Gwang-sik to do it, and in the struggle, they both end up falling into the river. Both men wash ashore unconscious, and Chung-gil regains consciousness first. He immediately sets out to find Young-suk, walking through town in a frantic search, crying uncontrollably. However, he discovers that Young-suk has already left for Seoul. Overwhelmed with despair, Chung-gil experiences a profound mental breakdown, grieving deeply over Young-suk disappearing. Young-suk waits at the bus station, preparing to leave for Seoul. In a monologue, she shares her thoughts, explaining that her decision to leave isn't running away, but rather a journey to discover herself. Reflecting on their past conversation, she tells Chung-gil in a letter that she wants him to pursue his dreams too, urging him to study hard and achieve his goals. As Chung-gil reads her words, he breaks down in tears, realizing she's gone. At school, Chung-gil's teacher announces his upcoming wedding and leaves the students unsupervised. Chung-gil receives an invitation from So-hee to meet at the same hotel where they first met, but he decides not to go. He returns the harmonica she gave him and begins to move on. Meanwhile, Chung-gil's uncle returns from Brazil with his fiancée, who Chung-gil doesn't seem particularly impressed with. His uncle advises him on relationships, emphasizing that one must understand a person's heart beyond appearance. The focus shifts to Young-suk in Seoul, who is now working in a factory. Unexpectedly, Chung-gil appears dressed sharply, carrying flowers and the compass Young-suk had thrown into the river. He draws attention from everyone as he makes his way to her. Chung-gil presents her with the flowers and the compass, symbolizing his determination and effort to find her. Leaving the factory together, Chung-gil carries Young-suk in a polite gesture. The movie concludes with the couple leaning towards each other, sharing a warm and sweet kiss, affirming their bond and a hopeful future together.